Hi there, James here. Hope you're having a great day and welcome to another one of my music theory lessons. Now in today's video, we're going to talk about one of the most important music theory things you need to understand. And this is the idea of a key. Now, I don't know how musicians really function and play music if they don't really understand what a key is, because it's where most of the music that we ever play comes from. I think it's absolutely essential that you have a good understanding of keys. So if you're a songwriter or an improviser, or you try and work out other people's songs, anything like that is going to make, understanding this key idea is going to make a colossal difference. So if you've got any confusion about keys, don't go anywhere, because in this video, it's going to be about 10 or 12 minutes long. I can unravel any confusion and show you pretty much exactly how a key works. So stick around, because we can sort this out right now, today, really pretty easily. Now, if you haven't seen it already, do grab a copy of my No Bull Music Theory for Guitar book. It's pretty much the easiest way to learn about 95% of the music theory that most guitarists need to know. It covers keys, scales, triads, chord sequences, minor keys, intervals. Pretty much everything is in there that you're going to need to know most of the time, okay? So do grab that. I'll put a link underneath the video. And it's probably the easiest way to get most of the music theory knowledge which you need as a guitar player. Link under the video, so check that out. Okay, back onto today's lesson. So let's take a general look, first of all, at what a key is. Then I'm going to show you how a key works, where a key comes from, and finally I'm going to show you how you can use it. So that's all coming up in this video. So let's think about what a key is, and let's take a very general view here. So think of a key as the raw material that a song comes from. So let's say someone said to you, oh, this song's in the key of G. What they're really saying to you is that the melody that maybe the singer is singing, the notes in the chords that you might be playing on your guitar, the notes that the bass player is playing, all these notes are contained in the G major scale. Now, we're looking at it a little bit simpler than this. Sometimes you do get notes outside the key coming in there, but let's pretend now we're talking about a very simple song. Everything that makes up that song is based on the notes in the G major scale. If they were talking about a song in the key of D, say D major, then everything that made up that song, all the notes in the chords, the bass line, the melodies that a soloist might be playing, what the singer's playing, all come from the 7 notes in the D major scale. So this is why a key is so important, because if you're trying to work out a song or write a song, once you've chosen a key, it actually tells you what your kind of choices are in terms of the notes you can use and the chords you can use, and it makes writing a song just so much easier. Now, of course, writing a great song is a creative process, and it goes beyond just knowing about keys, but this is a really great starting point. So that's what a key is. It's the raw material that the song is coming from. Now, let's look at how this works, okay? So let's use the key of G as an example. And think of a key as a 7-note scale and a set of 7 chords that go with that scale. Now, I like to call these a chord family. In my book, I talk about chord families. So we have the 7 notes in the G major scale, in the key of G, and we have the 7 chords in the G chord family. And the really cool thing about this is that, as we'll see in a moment, the chords all come from the scale, which means that the scale works over the chords. So if you've got a chord sequence which is using some of these chords in the key of G, you can actually use the notes in the G major scale to compose melodies and things over the top of it. I'm going to write out the chords in the key of G, and then I'm going to be back in a minute and we're going to go through them. Okay, so here are my notes in the G major scale and my chord family written underneath. Now, don't worry about the chord family yet. We're going to get to that in a minute. To start with, let's just look at the notes in the G major scale. Now, the G major scale, like any major scale, has 7 notes in it. And if you haven't seen my first video in this series on the major scale, then maybe skip back and check that out. But the G major scale has 7 notes: G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. Okay, so they're the 7 notes in the G major scale. Now, the G major chord family has 7 chords, and each one starts on one of these notes. We're going to take a look in a minute at how this actually works and where these chords come from, but like I said, we're going to keep it simple for now. We'll explain all this stuff, where it comes from in a minute. So our G major chord family is G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, and F sharp diminished. You can see here the F sharp, a little circle there is a sign for a diminished chord. Now, we don't really use that one very often in most music. We see it in Latin and jazz and this kind of music, but your average pop rock song, we don't see that one. So It's good to know it's there, but we're not probably going to use that one very much. So we've got a 7-note scale and we've got 7 chords. Now, as we're going to see in a second, these chords, this chord family, all come from this scale. These are like the offspring almost, the children of the G major scale. So carrying on our simple explanation, what does this actually mean? Well, the chords all come from the scale. So what this means is if we had a sequence of these chords, we could use the notes in the scale over the top of it. Let's take an example. Say I had a chord sequence that was going G, C, D, E minor. Okay, so it's G, C, D, E minor. All those chords are in our G major chord family. And because they all come from the chord family, what we can actually do is compose music over the top of that chord sequence using the notes in the G major scale. We could play a solo over the top using the notes in the G major scale. Someone could sing a melody over the top using the notes in the G major scale. So this is why this is so useful, and this is how, when you understand keys, suddenly writing your own music or understanding other people's music becomes a whole lot easier, because you can actually see where the music is coming from in the first place. So that is our very simple explanation of a key. Before we go a little bit deeper, we've got our 7 chord family. We're going to use that to make up a chord sequence. And we've got our 7-note major scale, which is where the chords came from in the first place. And that can be used to construct melodies, bass lines and things within the music. Now, this doesn't just apply to the key of G, it applies to all major keys. And there's 12 major keys because there's 12 major scales. So if we had the chords in the key of A, say, we could create a sequence of those chords, a chord progression, and we could make up music over the top of them using the notes in the A major scale. So we'll see some more chord families later on. But this idea of the scale going with the chord family is one of the most important things to understand about a key. So where does this chord family actually come from? And that's what we're going to have a look at now, using, again, the G major scale. And we're going to build a triad starting on each note. Now, a triad is a 3-note chord. If you're not sure what a triad is, skip back through this playlist to find my video on triads where I explain what triads are. Or also check it out in the book. There's a whole chapter on triads there, the different kinds of triads. So that will sort you out with that too. But what we're going to do now, we're going to build a 3-note chord starting on each note of the scale. And we're going to see how this is actually where our chord family comes from. So let's say I was starting on the G note. Okay, might as well start on the first note. Visually, this is quite easy to see because we're going to hop over a note and land on the next one. Let's see how that works on G. So I'm going to begin on G. I'm going to hop over the A note and land on B there. Then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hop from B over C and land on D. And that gives us our first triad, G, B, D. So let me write that one down. We've got G, B, and D. Now what we simply do is we repeat that process on each of the other notes in the scale. So we're going to get A, we hop over B, we land on C, we hop over D from C, and we land on E. And that gives us our second triad, A, C, E. Now, rather than writing them all out for you, I'm going to do that in a minute. We'll switch the camera off and do that. But let's just stack them up and then I'll write them out. So starting on B, we're going to go B, D, F sharp. So we're still carrying on this hopping thing. We're sort of almost like stepping stones. Next one, C. We're going to hop over D and land on E. Then we're going to hop over E. From E, hop over the F sharp, and imagine the scale repeats again. We're going to hop over F sharp and land back on G. So that gives us C, E, and G for our next chord. On D, we'd get D, hop over the E to the F sharp, hop from the F sharp over the G, and we're going to land on the A. On E, we're going to go E, hop over the F sharp, land on the G, and then from the G to the B. And the last chord, starting on the F sharp, we hop from the F sharp, we hop over the G and land on the A, and then we're going to hop from the A over the B and land on the C. So we're going to get G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C. So I've written the notes in the triads under here so we can see them. And what we're going to do next is we're going to analyze what those chords are, okay? And I'm pretty much going to tell you what they are. In the book, I go into a bit more detail about this, but otherwise this video is going to be hours and hours long, okay? So I'm going to tell you what these chords are, and then we'll see how this has big implications for all other keys. It's really mind-blowing what when you understand this, what you can do with it. So anyway, let's look at our first chord. We've got three notes here, G, B, D. Now it happens that they are the notes in a G major chord. So I'm going to write G under there. Our next triad, A, C, and E. Now this is the formula for an A minor chord, okay? So this is an A minor triad. So I'm going to write A minor under there. B, D, F sharp. Now these are the notes in a B minor chord. So let's label that one B minor. Next triad is C, E, and G. These are the notes in a C chord, a C major chord. So we've got that as our fourth chord. The next one starts on D, and we have D, F sharp, and A. These are the notes in a D major triad. So we'll label that one D. Next on the E, we have E, G, and B. These are the notes in E minor. Again, see the book for a bit more of an explanation about how we know this is minor and whatnot. Pretty easy to understand. It's just all detailed in the book there. And our final triad now, F sharp, A, and C. They are the notes in an F sharp diminished triad. Now, if you think back to the chord family that I wrote back on the previous sheet of paper, they were the exact same chords. So you can see that this is where they actually come from, these chords. We haven't just dreamt them up. I haven't just made this stuff up. What we're really doing is combining notes in the G major scale in ways that create a sequence of chords. And because the chords will come from the scale will go over the top of the chords. So that's where the chord family actually comes from. Now, let's build on this a little bit more because there's some really cool stuff going on here. Let's label these chords 1 to 7 in the order that they go. So we generally do this with Roman numerals, and in my next video I'll be talking a little bit more about chord sequences, and this is where this is going to really help you out. But let's number them with Roman numerals. So we're going to call G our 1 chord. We're going to call A minor our 2 chord. B minor is the 3rd chord, so we'll put it a Roman numeral for a 3 on that. C is our 4 chord, so we'll put Roman numerals for 4 on that one. D is our 5 chord. E minor is our 6 chord. And F sharp diminished is our 7 chord. Now you've probably heard people talk about 1-4-5 chord sequences before, or 1-6-2-5, and this is exactly what they're talking about. If we were talking about a 1-4-5 chord sequence in the key of G, we mean that we're playing the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords, which would be G, C, and D. 1-4-5 is probably the most common chord sequence out there. Another really common chord sequence, especially in jazz, is a 2-5-1 chord sequence. In the key of G, a 2-5-1 would be our 2 chord, A minor, our 5 chord, D, and our 1 chord, G. So this is where this kind of weird Roman numeral stuff can come and help you out. And like I say, I'll be talking a bit more about this in the next video. So now, just to recap, okay? Well done for sticking with it. I know it's a long video, but hopefully it's all making sense. We've got our chord family. We analysed what they are. We saw that we've got a major, a minor, and so on. We've numbered them with Roman numerals. Now let's take it one step further, and this is where things really start to get exciting. We're going to look at the type of chord we get on each of these. So for our 1 chord, we have a major chord. For our 2 chord and our 3 chord, they're both minor. Our 4 chord and our 5 chord are both major again. Our 6 chord, we saw that one was minor. We've got E minor here. And our 7th chord is diminished, okay, which we could write this little circle sign here. Now, remember this formula. This is really important. Our 1st chord is major. our second chord is minor, our third chord is minor, our fourth and fifth chord are major, our sixth chord is minor, our seventh chord is diminished. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Now, here's the really important stuff, okay? If you take that formula, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, and put it over the top of the notes in any major scale, you get the chords in that chord family. It's a really big deal. Let me take another major scale as an example, okay? Let's take the scale of F, okay? So the F major scale is F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, okay? That's 7 notes in the F major scale. Now what we can do is superimpose this over the top. F is going to be our first chord. Our second chord is minor. So our second chord in the F minor chord family, in the F major chord family rather, is going to be G minor. Our third chord was minor. Our fourth chord was major. We're going to have A minor and B flat major. Our fifth chord was major and our sixth chord is minor. So we're going to have C major and D minor. And our seventh chord was diminished. We're going to have E diminished. We can number those with Roman numerals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that works for every single major key. So all you need to do is know the notes in a particular major scale, and you can use that formula to easily work out all the chords in any key. Now I just want to skip to this table. You'll find this in my book. I call it a chord key chart, and it shows you every chord in every key. There's 12 major keys because there's 12 major scales, and these are the chord families for each of those. Now let's look at a few things here. You can see that our one chord, every chord in every key, the one chord is always major. In the 2 and 3 chord, all of them are minor. In every key, the 4 and 5 chord are major. The 6th chord is minor in every key, and the 7th chord is diminished in every key. So you can see that formula at work here. Now the reason that we actually get different chords in some of these keys, you can see here we've got B flat major, C minor, D minor, is because they are the notes in that particular major scale. To use the key of B flat as an example, the notes are B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. So when we apply our chord formula over the top, we get B flat, C minor, D minor, E flat, F, G minor, and A diminished. And it's the same for every other key here. So this is the power of this formula. Once you apply it over the top of the notes in a major scale, you get the chords in every single chord family, which means that you potentially makes it much easier for you to write out, compose, or work out a piece of music in any major key. And that's pretty much it. Now, well done for sticking with this. I know this has been a long video. So what we've basically talked about is saying how we take the 7 notes in a major scale. We can use the notes in that scale to create a family of chords, which I call a chord family. And then the chords and the scale fit together to make music. So when someone says to you, this song's in the key of A, what they really mean is the chords are coming from the A major chord family, and everything else in the song, the bass line, the melody, the singer singing, come from the A major scale. I know I've really oversimplified, maybe even laboured this point, but I really want to make sure that if you sat through this video, you understand it. Now, all this is in my Noble Music Theory book. It's just the easiest way to get all this simple music theory down. It's written in totally confusion-free language. Loads of people have said it's the only music theory book they ever really understood. So do check it out if you want to quickly and easily learn about 95% of the music theory that you need to know. I'm talking about the everyday music theory. You can go more advanced than this. You can go way more advanced than this. This will teach you the basics upon which everything else will make a lot more sense. So do check that out. There's a link to that under the video. It's available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Any questions or anything, drop them down in the comments below. But thanks for watching this video. I hope it's helped you today. And check out the book and check out my next video coming very soon, which is all about chord sequences. We're going to take some of this and look at how we can use it to understand chord sequences, move chord sequences into new keys, and all sorts of other cool stuff. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.